Nvidia is up in the pre-market, of course. Today, Piper reiterates that the stock is overweight. The chip giant wants to stop the downward trend that has caused shares to go into correction zone, as you are aware. Jim, you mentioned that neither the top nor the low end of broad demand has changed, and I have no doubts whatsoever. And simply because Microsoft received their chips right away, the wags, whoever they are, said, "Oh, then there must be a demand problem if they got all their chips." That isn't accurate at all. Carl, you are aware that I dislike an up opening. Heat-seeking rockets will blast that 133 at the people who purchased it yesterday for 127. We did not yet have the crescendo sell-off that you require. You mentioned that at noon yesterday, you believed we would be approaching minus 127, 128, but it immediately reverted to 128 after reaching 130. David, some people are selling Nvidia because they've simply concluded that it can't possibly be as good as it was the previous year. And it will be just as good, in my opinion. Jensen Huang will say something at the CES keynote on January 6 that will make you wish you hadn't sold it at 127. Everything will be as good, you claim. Are you referring to the company's success, or do you genuinely think that the stock will perform similarly to how it did this year, even though it has been flat for the past 6 months? We continue to discuss a stock that's. As you can see, the stock moves in tandem with the performance. And as you went from the 386 to the 486 to the Pentium, the performance, the major issue that people forget, was the same. Sometimes there are intervals in which you are temporarily unable to ship. It was far more difficult to ship this Blackwell. They have that chip right now. This was Hopper, the chips that Microsoft purchased, I guess. Although it is not the most recent version, they are incredibly strong. And I believe that everyone stated that Meta AI would be the most powerful. Don't forget about Meta, which is just improved, enhanced, upgraded, or price target boost. It isn't Meta AI at the moment. I believe it ends around June 28, 2023. However, the glasses, the translation-capable glasses. Oh, certainly, how about that? I'm giving the other pair of glasses to everyone. That's my gift to everyone. They don't watch. It doesn't matter because no one observes my family. However, I do have the ones that. Tell me if you have a spare pair. The ones asterisk, the Wall Street Journal asterisk reviewer Joanna Stern has nothing but good things to say about them. The real Ray-Bans are really awesome. You can have a nice time, converse to them, and snap pictures. Despite your criticism of asterisk, the information asterisk, they have an article stating that Nvidia's cloud business may be able to compete with AWS. I believe they simply felt the heat of never saying anything positive about Nvidia during one of the greatest runs in history, except from, it's bad, this or that. They seem to have a curse on Nvidia, really. What about Nvidia? A jinx. Never mind. No, not. And neither are you, David. It appears it would be equivalent to my purchasing Super Bowl tickets at this very moment. Oh no. Yes, with jinx. They simply make these statements that are just, it's amazing. You would think that corporation is leading the way in EV charging station asset competitiveness, bespoke silicon, scaling walls, peak capex works, etc., if you followed them. Keep in mind that the GPU is used by Marvell and Broadcom Technologies. The GPU cannot be replaced by them, although they must purchase a huge quantity of Nvidia GPUs. Amazon would be thrilled if Trump could possibly keep up with the GPU, the Nvidia GPU. Do they still? They continue to do so. We discussed this yesterday. Today, we will say it. No one. It's not being said. But once more, just. However, do you think Nvidia's financial results will be comparable to what we've seen thus far during the changeover in the upcoming year? We must leave, but let's go on to Nvidia, says the song that's currently playing in my ear. According to the information story, Nvidia could establish a cloud computing company that could compete with Amazon Web Services and others. Jim, Maker estimates that over time, software and cloud services might bring in $150 billion. Cloud and AI software will be a huge market in the future, according to CEO Jensen Huang. The business is expected to make $2 billion a year from software sales alone. Amazon, which has been the dominant player in the cloud market for many years, may face significant challenges if they decide to enter the cloud market. I think that around 20% of Amazon's total revenue comes from Amazon Web Services, with a large amount of that coming from the cloud. They and Nvidia have engaged in a form of co-opetition. I'm eager to watch the claw emerge if they do begin eating their food. However, Amazon intends to manufacture its own AI processors, correct? And perhaps stop purchasing as many Nvidia chips in the future. Seeing that push and pull is therefore fascinating. The other aspect of this narrative that really interests me, nvda, is that it's a classic investor tale of a business expanding as it provides a product, isn't it? Thus, Nvidia has produced these highly effective AI chips. They are desired by all. Isn't that how Nvidia tracks the client along that path? You consider Apple and the iPhone, don't you? Apple provided us with all of these fantastic things. What did they ultimately develop into one of their main business segments? The services company, isn't it? After you utilize the product, they kind of walk through the customer journey with you and keep selling you items. Compared to that, Nvidia's AI chips are slightly different, far more complex, and much more business to business. However, I believe it's a reasonable analogy to consider. Well, everyone bought our chips. How can we contribute to the upcoming AI? The transition from infrastructure to what we do with this was something we discussed earlier in the hour. One of the most important components of that next step is cloud services. You begin to discuss the possibility that the need for AI chips isn't the only aspect of the investment story if Nvidia can indeed make $150 billion in revenue from this in the long run. Because I believe that the question has been, what about when everyone has enough chips? For the majority of the past 18 months. Correct. That concludes the conversation. If we hear more about this on upcoming earnings, perhaps the conversation will start to change a little. And $150 billion. I think AWS's cloud business brings in around $100 billion. We think we're going to beat the biggest guy in the room here too, they would also be saying, which is intriguing going forward. To your point, Nvidia has already somewhat changed itself, so I believe it will be interesting to watch. They began as a manufacturer of video game chips. They are now this AI behemoth. Will they grow to be a major cloud player as well? We'll see if they can pull it off, because they have a lot of competition. They face fierce competition in a wide range of areas, don't they? Perhaps your answer is to zig a little bit and have other revenue streams that can also pick up if you have the chip competition that we have been discussing for the past several weeks. It's definitely not a story for tomorrow, but it's something to keep an eye on, particularly if you want to stay onto Nvidia for the long haul. It could be appealing to get past that semiconductor tail and explore alternative revenue streams. Finally, we will discuss Nvidia. Just recovering from those recent losses, those shares are up almost 3% before the market opens. That company, which is down roughly 10% from its best closing price this year, is still teetering on the verge of that so-called correction region. Investors are currently awaiting proof of its ability to swiftly develop its Blackwell AI next-generation processors. These shares, which are among the S&P's better performers, have nonetheless increased by around 170% this year. Speaking of Nvidia, the Magnificent 7 stock is underperforming. It's still up more than 160% this year after all. It has had a successful run. People seem to be freaking out over this, in my opinion. However, are you guys noticing any waning data that somewhat mirrors what we've witnessed since reaching those record highs last month? Because if you listen to the tech businesses, it appears that they aren't stopping their purchases of Nvidia goods just yet. Yes, you maca.